important think piece from Vanity Fair, as per usual. Have you been wondering why Americans are so obsessed with protein?
It's every day. Hayden and Eli, I need the protein. This has this much protein, Mom. That has this much protein. Protein shakes. Mixing protein in everything that you have. Protein pancake mix. I mean, the list goes on and on. Why is everybody so obsessed?
Well, I didn't know everybody was, but apparently your boys are.
Everybody that age is, I think.
The Vanity Fair put their top people on this. From the investigative piece. I don't have a good sense of what's driving that right now, other than if it's just the usual manosphere or manomania here in the United States, says Peter Cohen, an internist at Cambridge Health Alliance and an associate professor at Harvard Medical School, who leads the center's supplemental research program. Everyone's letting their testosterone out these days.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Yeah,
okay.
Especially the women. One thing he's noticed, more men than women arrive at his office interested in protein. Boy, thank you for that expert opinion, Dr. Cohen, Harvard Medical School, and you the explanation is just his sort of off the cuff manomania. This is good stuff. It's not only men who care about protein.
I care about protein.
Well, that's Vanity Fair. I mean, just right. Speaking to you, yes.
I drink protein shakes on days where I know I'm going to have a tough workout. I'll down one while on the way to work.
Yeah, but you don't know why you do it.
Well, because my kids told me if you want leaner, stronger muscles and more energy. Well, I'm just. Let me just tell you what they're telling me.
That's what I'm saying. You don't know why you do it. That's not why. That's not what's happening. You need Vanity Fair to tell you what's happening. Okay. Why are you doing the things you do? Well, I don't know. Vanity Fair, tell me. It's not only men who care about protein, but a mosey through recent history suggests a strong correlation between the rise of the likes of the men's rights movement and our national lust for protein, which is how we got to the quagmire of contradiction, wherein a manosphere helmed by Donald Trump has such a vocal contingent of intense protein-maxing health obsessives. The intertwinement of masculinity and red meat and its attendant health properties, namely protein, is strong and deep-seated. In short, why are Americans, including Amy and her boys, so obsessed with protein? MAGA.
Oh, really?
That's why.
They started doing protein years ago. Before
you didn't get obsessed with it. You didn't get obsessed with it until Donald Trump and RFK Jr. created this manosphere, which enveloped you and your children.
During the early Biden years. Or no,
David
who knows?
David Harsanyi is a senior writer for the Washington Examiner, author of The Rise of Blue Anon, How the Democrats Became a Party of Conspiracy Theorists. Golly, I don't know what he's talking about. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always happy to be here. Thanks.
The protein obsession, have you delved into this at all? I assume this is probably a Pulitzer winner, the excerpt just from the excerpts I just read.
I'm a fan of protein, especially with pasta or in a salad, something like that. I like to even it out. Yeah.
Did you trace that back to your MAGA-ism?
I only heard about protein about 10 years ago. That's when they first started talking about it. I'm not obsessed yet, but I know
you will be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You just wait, young man.
You think you're not obsessed. That's how MAGA works. It's insidious.
Yeah.
Creeps up on you.
But I mean, all roads lead to MAGA. I mean, that's to talk about obsessions. That's the left's.
Yeah. I mean, listen, everything hinges on whatever he does. Now, I've always been a big free market guy, for instance, but all of a sudden now, the left's anti-tariff and pro-free market. I just don't really believe them. I saw Brian Stelter of CNN the other day say that we need to learn more about the Constitution. People need to know about separation of powers.
Really?
People need to know. Yeah. You just spent 10 years delegitimizing the Supreme Court. You just spent 10 years, undermining separation of power, celebrating executive abuses by Obama and Biden. So, yeah, it's a weird time.
You also replace U.S. history books with genderqueer, by the way.
Right, and Beyonce study.
Yeah.
There's that, too. You point, just in terms of Pulitzer quality work, where, I mean, this has become almost a punchline, but the awards that journalists or celebrities, which I guess journalists, these quote unquote journalists sort of see themselves as, or they behave that way, where they just, give themselves awards. And so another award that has been stripped of all value, sort of like the Nobel Prize, at least the Peace Prize version of it. This Pulitzer for a group of journalists at ProPublica, which ran a story that's inaccurate. It's just like the Pulitzers that were handed out for the Russian collusion stories.
Yeah. I mean, it was a sleazy story. You'll remember about a year ago, because of Dobbs, Republicans were never going to win another election, never win the presidency, and so on. So they had to, and some of these local bans went into effect. Actually, I shouldn't call them bans. They're just restrictions, went into effect, and they came up with this story of this this woman named Amber Thurman who took abortion pills, had complications, and died because the doctors it seems, at least allegedly, didn't take care of her. And the whole thesis here, I guess, is that that doctors are scared to help women because of these laws. But the very heart of the story, first of all, there's not a single quotation, not a single source on the record that says anything of the sort. That's the first thing. Second thing is you have to get to the 57th paragraph before you read that the report on this says that nothing of the sort happened. Moreover, finally, the abortion had already happened. She had an infection because, she got an infection from the complications, and they had been aborted already. So there was nothing in the law that would have stopped them. Anyway, it's a terrible story. It should be used by journalism students, journalism professors, if we have any left, to show someone how not to be a hack, basically. And instead, it won a Pulitzer Prize, which when I started out was a really big deal and something to be admired. Today, it's a joke. I mean, it's a joke. It's like giving an award to yourself for covering Biden's, presidency and covering that, his acuity had fallen, way, way too late. And after you covered it up, I mean, these people give themselves awards for the most insane things, and they just destroy their credibility over and over and over again, I think.
Yeah, you talked about how at first they probably started pitching it to big outlets such as the New York Times, and then you work your way down. How does that transpire?
All the way down to ProPublica, yeah. I mean, I think what happens is, you have some activist group, they have a story, they've come up with this thing. They pitch it to the New York Times. New York Times is like, this isn't even good. We can't even do this. Washington Post, on, and you end up with ProPublica, which is propped up by deep-pocketed leftist, donors and groups, and they'll put it out. And then the little game they play is, and that, after they put out this terrible story that no real journalist would write, and everyone knows is terrible, the New York Times will mention ProPublica reported so this and this. Kamala Harris will mention it. Democratic senators will mention it. The little game they play, I call this Potemkin journalism. It's kind of dressed up with fancy journalistic words and kind of the tone of a real investigative story. There's nothing there, and this is what they do, and this is why no one trusts them.
Well, no, it's a good distillation of it. The interesting thing too is this discussion of defunding NPR and PBS after the testimony from the two CEOs of those organizations and the Trump executive order. But, we were talking about this back with Doge, when Doge uncovered, how many millions of dollars Politico was getting, for example, on subscriptions from government employees and government agencies and so forth. I mean, that's sort of basically underwriting or subsidizing some of these Beltway outlets under the guise of voluntary subscriptions. That's a whole nother funding stream that I don't think people fully appreciated until some of this was uncovered. We should be defunding that, as well as the direct payments that NPR and PBS get.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I get it. These PBS, NPR, they're biased. They speak to a certain faction of the country, I would say, that are upper class left leftists, basically. And hey, I watch some of it and listen to some of it too. It's pretty good sometimes. But so let's just set this bias apart. Why should we subsidize the viewing and listening habits of rich people, basically? I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's an antiquated model. We have in 1969, Mr. Rogers went in front of the Senate and, gave this famous little speech, and he got money. And that's great because maybe we didn't have choices. But today, we have tons of choices. I mean, I could watch educational programs all day if I wanted. So there's really no need for it, even beyond the bias, I think.
Well, and we have these Orwellian pitches that are coming from outlets that are supported by, the forced extraction of other people's money. Chicago Sun-Times this week, which is owned by NPR, the WBEZ station, which is the NPR station in Chicago. Chicago Sun-Times, in response to the executive order that Trump said, they made this appeal, we need 2,500 new donors by May 15th to, quote, keep our organization sustainable amid threats to our independence. I mean, nothing screams independence like being a state dependent.
And that's the thing. I mean, if you truly believe that, so if NPR can be threatened by the president, and let's say they acquiesced to him and mollified him, that's bad too. I don't want media organizations doing what the state tells them to do. And if you really want to be independent, you wouldn't do that. Certainly, you can go with on one side they say, "Oh, it's not a lot of money." On the other side, they say, "We will collapse if we don't have this money." It can't be both things. And I'm sure you could raise 8% from all the people who listen to NPR podcasts. What do they have, 1,000 stations or something? I mean, it's ridiculous that they cry poor. They're a big media organization, and there's no reason for us to help prop them up, especially because a lot of people don't like the sorts of social and political commentary that they have. I mean, what was that guy's name? Yuri Berliner, I think. He said there were
right.
80 people on the news side, and they were all registered Democrats, not one registered Republican. I mean, I don't want to help fund that.
Right, and they've become op-ed writers and frankly sci-fi writers, novelists masquerading as journalists. I mean, this to me is part of the story of your new book, The Rise of Blue Anon, the Democrats being a party of conspiracy theorists. You described almost the process, and this is how something that is so obviously debunked, at least in the minds of anybody that is sort of evidence-based in the way they process information and come to conclusions. But this is the way that the things that persist that have been so thoroughly debunked is because you have this infrastructure of fictionalists.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the left-wing journalism has become. And, it's also annoying. I got to say, I'm watching PBS or something, right? And there's always some political message. I can't watch a nature show without hearing about climate change destroying the earth or whatever. I mean, it's just they've kind of embedded their political and social views into nearly everything. And I'm sorry. I mean, if you wanted to survive, put a commercial on or something like the rest of us, or whatever. Make it a streaming service. We really don't need it. It does not. The initial bill to fund all this stuff was about giving people who have maybe 3 channels in their community some educational programming or programming for their children. It's got to be a whole bunch of stations for kids, on streaming services now. We don't really need it.
Are you optimistic or pessimistic that things that have been debunked will be widely understood to have been debunked because of the continued digitization and democratization of media, more outlets, again, the proverbial, some Twitter accounts that have more subscribers, followers than major dailies and so forth. Are you seeing progress toward that end, even as amid the cries of misinformation, disinformation, or do you see it's just more siloing that's going on, and they're just people that you can't get to unless you share their particular belief systems?
I'm pretty pessimistic because, obviously I want these, I guess you call them establishment media organizations, destroyed. I don't want people to be hurt, but I just don't. I think they've failed us in a major way. But the vacuum they've created has allowed some good people to show up, but there's so much, I hate to say the word, disinformation or lies out there, or there's just, the vacuum has left a lot of bad people have realized they can make a lot of money on Twitter just saying crazy things, and a lot of credulous people will follow them. Now, I don't know. Maybe I have a slanted or skewed view of this because I'm online too much. Maybe it's not thus in the real world, but I guess we'll see soon enough.
David Harsanyi, senior writer for the Washington Examiner, author of The Rise of Blue Anon, how the Democrats became a party of conspiracy theorists. David, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Quiet down. Here she comes. Shh. Surprise! Your accountant just emailed to say your quarterly taxes are way higher than you were expecting.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting discounts with a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Also, your favorite employee is leaving. They're going to